Hi, I'm Terry Coles for International Living, and this is the beautiful city in northern Portugal named Porto. I'm here to interview my friend Jeff Wade. He's an American expat who's willing to share his story with you and tell you why he took the big leap to move from the US to Portugal and what he loves about Porto. Hi Jeff, how are you doing today?
Fine. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
Good. Jeff has agreed to tell the international living community, about his life here in Porto. He's an expat, he's an American, and he's been living here for 4 years so far.
It's 4 years this past month.
So, tell us why you left the US and why you chose Porto.
It's an interesting story. I left the United States at the height of COVID, and as a designer, literally, not figuratively, literally, my work had come to a halt. Every showroom was closed, all of my vendors were closed, people were sick, we had lockdowns, and I had my company since 1995, so something just said, you know what, it's time for a change. And I spent a lot of time in Europe during those years, almost 30 years, 20 plus years, going back and forth from Miami to Europe, and had been to Porto several times. And I wanted to stay involved in the market that I'm in, the interior design market and the home market, residential market. But the more I started doing research, I found that Porto is literally the hub of all of Europe for textile manufacturing.
Wow. So
I was like, you know what? This is like a dream come true because I adore Portugal. I love Porto. If I were to go there, I would have all these people around me and I could actually produce a collection and sell it to the American market, in particular my client. So as COVID continued to get worse and the lockdown became worse and worse, I was like, okay, I'm done. It wasn't a desire to leave the United States. It was a desire to make my life better and start in a new direction, because I'm not at retirement age and I wanted to, there was still a lot in me and there was still a lot that I wanted to do. So it turned out to be literally the best decision I've ever made. So once that decision had been made, that was in March that I put these plans together. In August, I was on a plane and everything that I own in this apartment was mine and on a boat being shipped here.
Wow, it's a scary thing. Putting all of your life savings, your furniture and belongings on a boat to be shipped to a foreign country.
Do you know, it's so strange because people have said that to me before. I don't think of it in those terms. I knew that I was going to be physically in a different country. But as I said, I'd been here before, so I didn't, and I've spent so much time in Europe. Europe doesn't seem like a foreign place to me. It feels like part of me because I've lived so much of my life in Europe. Of course, I'm from the United States, but it just felt like I was going to another town, number one. But number two, that being said, regardless of whether it's in Portugal or whether it's in Chicago or whether it's in Los Angeles, whatever it is, it's a town that I didn't know. And I knew that when I got here, I wanted to be able to unlock my door and walk in and feel like I was at home and be surrounded by everything that was familiar to me. Everything that had meaning in my life, everything that I've collected over the years. And everyone said, oh, Jeff, don't know. You can't do that. Go to IKEA. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? I'm not going to IKEA. Why am I going to go to IKEA? I mean, it's ridiculous. So I called and started pricing out what it would cost. And it turned out at that particular time, for $5,000, I was able to get door-to-door shipment to Porto, where they came to my apartment in Miami, packed me, took it all out, put it on in a container, shipped it to Porto. unloaded it in Porto, brought it to my apartment, unloaded it in my apartment, and walked out. And literally, one day I had an empty apartment, and by that night, I had an apartment full of everything that made me feel comfortable.
Wow.
So it was an incredible sense of ease in doing that. And I think it was psychological for the most part, because I felt at home. The manufacturing was a huge thing for me. The second most important thing was the airport. The ability to get out of here and go where I needed to go, do the work that I needed to do. And also, because I have an elderly mother, if something, God forbid, were to happen to her, I needed to be able to go to an airport, get on a plane, and be home. And that's something that I think a lot of people maybe don't take into account when they consider leaving the United States. But it's so incredibly important, and at the same time, very comforting to know that you Google, oh my God, there's a flight leaving in 3 hours to where I need to go, and in 20 minutes I can be at the airport and on the plane in an emergency. You can't do that everywhere in Europe.
True.
And the other thing is the fact that proximity to the United States. I can be in New York in 5.5 hours.
It's not any further than flying from California to New York.
It's less than flying.
Yes, it's less than flying.
Less than flying from New York to San Francisco or Boston, San Francisco, and which is a joke.
And Americans don't realize that. They think Europe is so far away, and it's really not. Clyde and I really enjoy the traveling around Europe too, that we can hop on a budget flight for 40 euros and be in Paris in 2 hours. It's incredible. And often flying longer distances from the U.S. to Portugal is cheaper than flying from one state to another.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is strange but true. So what type of visa are you living on here?
It is a D2.
Which is?
Entrepreneurial, allowing me to work here. Any monies that I make in this country, I of course have to pay taxes on because of the double taxation rule. Anything I make in the United States, I have to pay in the United States. But it's a different visa that a lot of people go for, i.e. the D7 or the golden visa. It is, in basic terms, an entrepreneurial visa for someone who wants to continue working.
You came here to start a business of your own, but you're working online. It's more of an online business. You don't have a physical office building here.
No, and what my whole project is an online retail entity. So that was great because I was able to find incredible talents here to help me with that, because I'm a computer idiot when it comes to all of the tech stuff. And Porto happens to be one of the capitals of practically any city that I know of, because there have been so many tech people sent to Portugal that you can find people that are just absolutely amazing, that have literally saved my life in putting this venture together. So I'm very grateful for that.
Good, good. Now, you have a beautiful apartment that you said you're renting for $1,400 a month, and you did ship all of your own belongings. Was it easy to find the apartment?
Well, it was bizarre. And so I guess I would say, yes, it was easy, and I was very, very, very lucky. I've never rented an apartment in my life without going to the actual apartment. This particular apartment, I took from a realtor who walked me through via WhatsApp. And that was very strange. Then, because of my job and what I do, I said, can you send me the floor plan? So with the floor plan, I had the entire apartment arranged according to what pieces I own.
Wow.
So that when they did move me in, I said, this goes there, this goes there, this goes there, this goes there, bing, bang, boom, bye. And that's how it worked. But it was strange because when I walked in, I didn't know what I was going to find, because pictures can be very deceiving. And camera angles can be very deceiving. And I feel very fortunate because I have incredible views of the city. It's a historic neighborhood. It's the part of the UNESCO historic neighborhood of Porto. So that means that buildings cannot be torn down. They can be renovated. And so I'm living in a new old city is how I refer to it. Because it's 18th century meets 21st century. And the interior of the apartment has every comfort that you could ask for. But the exterior of the apartment, rather, is exactly the way it was designed in the late 1800s. And there's just something very cool about that. Because
there is.
And I think it has a lot to do with, my love for design and my love for architecture and history and all of that. Some people, might want something brand spanking new with something slick and glassy on the outside, like Miami, which is what I'm used to. And I'm the opposite. The older, the more character, that to me makes me feel at home and makes me comfortable.
Okay, we've discussed your love of Porto and how you found Porto, the close to the airport, lively lifestyle here. Tell us about the climate. No, the winters in Portugal are kind of wet and rainy.
Yeah.
But you take the good with the bad.
You do. I moved in August. My furniture hadn't arrived. It was 150 degrees, if it was one. And then the next thing you know, it's Christmas, and Christmas is wonderful and beautiful and magical. And then January, it starts raining, and then February, oh my God.
More rain.
Non-stop. No sun, no. I didn't see a ray of light for I don't know how long. But the weather, I'm now used to it. And when I go back and visit Miami, for example, I get off the plane and I'm like ready to pass
You're
out.
sweltering.
I'm literally ready to pass out. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's so gorgeous here. And I'm like, no, it's not. It is so bloody hot. I can't even walk. So your body does acclimate. And you get used to it. And thank God I have a great apartment that's insulated and double pane windows and little details like that a lot of people don't think about.
Yes.
So I don't have issues with mold. I don't have issues with anything like that. So I'm allowed to be inside if it's really crappy outside. It's just a crappy outside day.
Sure.
But that happens
Anywhere in the world.
So many cities. I think of my friends that live in Detroit and Chicago. I mean, it's the same thing.
And in comparison, Clyde and I live in the Algarve in the city of Tavira. Today it's probably 85 or 90 degrees, and we're visiting Jeff in Porto, and here it's about 70, 72. We're enjoying the cooler temperatures, but the Algarve is mild in the winter and dry, and we don't get the rain. So you take the good with the bad. We put up with the extreme heat this time of year,
Right.
And you're enjoying this kind of weather.
It's very unusual for it to get as hot as it's been. We've only had like 3 or 4 days, I think, this summer, where it's been incredibly hot.
Yeah.
And when I say hot, it's not hot compared to
The Algarve, yeah.
No, or compared to Arizona, or
Yeah,
compared to
sure.
some of the places in the United States this year that have had record-breaking heat. But for us, for people living in Porto, it's hot.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it hasn't lasted.
Yeah. What do you think about the healthcare here? I mean, Americans tend to think we have the best healthcare in the world. We know it's the most expensive, not necessarily the best.
Oh, I think Americans are completely wrong on every level.
I agree.
I do not think it's the best, and my experience in Porto has been absolutely amazing. The amount of care, the kindness, the willingness to be there, literally snap your fingers. I remember Miami calling to make an appointment with just my general doctor, and it would be like, well, we have an opening in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
In 2.5 months, are you out of your
2.5 months, I'll be dead.
Exactly, I could drop dead. Here, the way it's set up with the public system, every little neighborhood has its own clinic, and you're assigned a doctor, and you can go to that clinic, leave a note, say, I need to see the doctor. You immediately get an email back saying, can you be here tomorrow at 10? Can you be here this afternoon at 5? That part is is incredible, number one. Number two, the knowledge is amazing. I find that the pharmacists here know more than most of the doctors I know in America. They literally have diagnosed me to a T that a doctor in the States, well, we need to run more tests. And they hit it, they nail it right on the head, which blows me away.
Yeah, I agree. And every time we leave a pharmacy, Clyde laughs at how cheap the whatever we bought. Well, we buy 10 different things, and it's 20 euros. And
oh my God, I have to tell you the story. I went to buy something today, as a matter of fact. And he said, yes, we have it. And I said, how much is it? He said, it's 31 euros. I said, 31 euros? Are you out of your mind? And he literally passed out laughing. And I said, what's so funny? He said, you're sounding like a Portuguese. And I said, why? And he said, do you know how much this medicine is in the United States? And I said, no. And he said, what you're getting is $1,300 US in the United States, not counting insurance. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. He said, no, so you think 31 euros is expensive? And I'm like, I feel like such an ass. I was complaining about 31 euros. Because you get into that mindset here where it's the norm.
It's so cheap, yeah.
Where it is the norm. And so
and that is cheap.
Hear all of these stories coming out of the States, about the price of prescription drugs and all of these things that are in the in the political whirlwind that's going on. It's a reality check when you go here and you see how incredibly well run it is and how it really is geared toward the people.
Yeah. And what about, you have private health insurance here? Or?
I do.
And how much do you pay for that?
It's amazing. It's with a company called Alliance, which is a huge international insurance company. And it's Portuguese insurance. And it's purchased privately. And it is 150 euros a month.
What's your average cost of living, if you want to share
well, first
figures?
of all, I live alone, so...
you don't have an expensive wife spending your money.
No, I don't. No. The difference is more the food cost. There's an incredible difference in the cost of food here, simply because it's more of a European way of living, and then you have a meat market, and you have a vegetable market, and you have a cheese market, fromagerie, you have a patisserie, a bakery. You have a place to buy your cakes and cookies and all of that sort of thing, which I never buy, but you have those different places and you go from spot to spot. So you live in a way that's much more European, in that you go out and I will buy provisions for the day. And then I will use those to make my dinner and maybe have leftovers for the next day. Or if it's a weekend, I'll make something that'll last me through the week. So my cost, I would say, counting my rent and my electricity, and I have central air and heat and water and cable and phone and food, it ends up around $2,100 to $2,200 a month.
That's great.
And I go out.
And that's living like a king, because
it is.
Pretty much.
And I do go out. I'll go out probably 4 times a month, like once a week. But I don't do the cheap restaurant thing, because I'm not going to eat at any place that can't make food better than I can. So, but even so, at some of your more expensive restaurants, it's easy to get out of for 40 euros, maybe 50 if you really push it. I can't think of a city that has an international airport, that has the ability to walk and not use a car, that offers the beauty, the kindness, the amazing architecture anywhere in the United States that I could live for that amount of money.
Exactly.
Anywhere in the United States. $2,200? Seriously? Or euros? I mean...
You couldn't rent a place in any city in the U.S. for that.
You can't. It's impossible. I didn't come here to get a bargain. That's not why I came. It just happens to be a humongous plus.
Yes. We met Jeff the other night to have wine in a 5-star hotel, and it was happy hour, and the glasses of wine were $3.50 each. So Three. Yeah, our bill came to 22 euros for all the wine we drank. It was so funny. So what advice would you have to give to somebody considering moving to Portugal, or Porto in particular? Now, we've been here for 3 weeks so far, just visiting, and the hills are killing us. You're accustomed to the hills now, but every street in Porto is up or down.
It's a roller coaster.
It is a roller coaster.
When I first came, I was literally crawling. Plus the fact that it's cobblestone.
Yes.
So I had made the mistake of dressing like I dress, whether I'm in New York or Miami, and I would wear leather shoes, sole shoes. Well, what you quickly find out is that when it rains on cobblestones that have been walked on for hundreds of years, they become glass. And I was like, bottoms up, bottoms up. And I was like, okay, no, we have to rethink this dressing thing. And it's funny because it's one of those towns that you don't realize it, but I have one of those on my phone, that app that tells you how far you've walked. And I go and do a normal day and I don't think anything about it anymore. And I'm a speed walker from living in New York and Miami. And boom, 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 boom. I got to go and get there quick. I come home and I look at my phone and I've walked 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers. And I'm like, it doesn't even feel like I've moved. So that is one thing that it's a positive about the thing that I complain about is actually a good thing.
Yeah, healthy living.
It is healthy living. And then the food, to go back to the food, the fact that it's illegal to use pesticides, the fact that everything is, I buy my potatoes with dirt on them. I buy my tomatoes have dirt on them. All of my vegetables have dirt. Why? Because they just came out of the garden and they're just brought fresh. I love that. And I think that combined with the walking and the exercise that I'm forced to have because I don't have a car here. This is not a town, in my opinion, that's easy to have a car because there's no such thing as like a parking lot. And if you find a place on the street, you're going to be very lucky and you can't stay there even if you do find one. So it's not a car town.
Sure, and
city.
There's great public transport too if you
It's
need
the
to.
best.
And we drove here and we parked our car in a parking garage and paid like 130 euros for the month. So if you did have a car, you'd have to pay to park it somewhere.
You have to pay.
It does get expensive.
And then you have insurance, and then you have to go through the whole driver's license thing. And I've rented a car a couple of times, which is super easy to do. And that's, I think, a misconception that a lot of Americans have that, I'm renting a car and I'm nervous about driving and blah, 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 blah. The best highways, they are so, everything, the signage is so much better in my opinion than, I'm going to speak about Miami-Dade because it's a joke. You don't know where you're going, it's just like around and around and around. This is so well thought out that it was so easy to rent a car and drive and do what I needed to do. But Porto is one of those cities I would never recommend someone bring their car to.
Yeah, I agree. Porto, Lisbon, you can live without a car. I think we better wrap this thing up now. If you'd like more information on Portugal or Porto, you can click on the link below. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.